Hi, I'm going to do a quick bread tutorial. I've been making this artisan bread for many years and I've received a lot of requests for the recipe, so I'm going to make a video. This is a kind of bread that you raise overnight and then you bake it in a pot. So I'm going to show you what I have. You should have a 3-quart stainless steel pot. I use a pot with a glass lid. You can see that there's several variations, different sizes. I often bake 3 loaves at a time, so here are my 3 different pots that I use. The man who taught me how to make it, his name is Bill, and he owns the Fiore Market Cafe in South Pasadena, California, and he is amazing. So if you have a chance to go try his bread there or his food, please do. I took a bread making class there, and he uses a stainless steel pot with a stainless steel lid, which means he has to take the lid off for the last 8 minutes of baking. For me, because this is just what I had, so I learned how to bake with this, I used the glass lid, and you don't have to take the lid off if you have one with a glass lid. So the baking times would vary a little bit depending on the lid you have, but you do need a pot with a lid and that it can all go in the oven. All right, this is a very easy recipe, and I just wanted to do a tutorial to show how easy it is so that anyone can make it. 3 cups of flour. The recipe calls for bread flour, but I use all-purpose, and both of them work. You have to be really precise with your flour, which is why I'm kind of patting it down and scooping it off. Most breads you start with the water, sugar, and yeast. This bread does not have sugar, and that's to bloom the yeast. And in this case, you start with the bread and the yeast and the salt first. Okay, after you do the 3 cups of flour, you need 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And you can do them a little bit heaping. They don't have to be completely precise, but right about 2 teaspoons is right where you want it. And then only 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast. So there's very little yeast in this recipe. And the reason it works is because you let it raise for so long. So just a 1/4 teaspoon. After that, you mix it. It'll just take a few seconds. I always stir the same direction. And then you want 1 cup and a 1/4 cup, so 1 1/4 cups of room temperature water. You gotta make sure it's the right temperature first. Not too hot, not too cold. And remember, you're gonna raise this overnight. So you always wanna make sure, this is the one time you have to really plan your meals, make sure you're planning ahead for this. It'll be worth it. Okay, so 1 1/4. And then again, you stir. This is literally how easy it is. You stir until you really can't, until all the flour is incorporated. And eventually you have to really go at it. Most breads require quite a bit of kneading. This bread does not. It's mostly stirring and then about 20 seconds of kneading. So once you get to this point where it's all pretty much together, but there's still, a little bit of kneading that needs to happen, then you put your spoon down and knead it. Kind of flip and push with your knuckles as you go. And you do that just, 5 or 10 times. Get this bread dough off. You should always have clean hands, of course. I'm going to wash my hands. The last step before you leave it overnight is to wrap the whole bowl. Let's see. Okay. So you want to wrap the whole bowl with saran wrap. And it should be pretty airtight. So I wrap it about 3 or 4 times around. And then you're going to leave it overnight. I believe the recipe says 16 or 17 hours. As long as it's overnight, you're pretty good. So I think there's some, wiggle room between about 10 and 18 hours, I would say. All right. Once you're done with that, you are done with that step. But I actually made a loaf last night, so I can show you the second step. So moving forward several hours, I'm going to let me move these. So this one I'm going to put in the pantry and let that raise overnight. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so for the second step, you need a dry counter. You need parchment paper. You can use reusable parchment paper or just regular parchment paper. And then you want to grab a little bit of flour. Just put a little bit on the parchment paper. And then you get to open up. Do you see, before I start, see how much it's risen? So it's kind of puffy and airy. And that's been sitting out for about 16 hours. And that really, I tried making this once before just on one day, like making it in the morning, and it was not very good. It really does need all that time to become delicious. You could use kitchen gloves. I just use my hands and get flour. Okay, this part's important. What you want to do is get your hands full of flour, and then you come in and you kind of pull it away from the edge of the bowl. Does that make sense? So if it gets sticky, grab some more flour. It's okay if a dusting gets on top. Pull it away until you can pick it up. And then at this point, my hands are getting sticky again. You can grab a little bit more flour. You hold it like this, and you just kind of keep squeezing it under to form it into a round loaf. Some of the bubbles are going to come out, but they don't all need to. We are going to raise this again. So once you're right here, literally just watch how quick that is. You set it down. I dust the top with flour again, and then use a clean kitchen cloth. You want to let it raise about another 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and then you're going to bake it in a very hot oven. So we'll come back for that part. All right, we're back and ready to bake. Just a quick note about this bread. It is best on the first day. So if you're not going to eat it the first day, you can freeze it and it will freeze pretty well, or you can toast it. But it probably won't last more than a day anyway. All right, so when I turned the oven on, I preheated it to 475 and I put the pot in. At that time, make sure you use 2 oven mitts, or you might make the same mistake I did and touch the lid without an oven mitt. Okay, my bread is ready. It should be about double in size. You literally just lift up this parchment paper and drop it into the pot carefully. Okay, and you take the lid. I'm gonna keep this out here. Put it on. Back in. I set a timer for 35 minutes. That's what works best in my oven. If you have a stainless steel lid, you will probably need to take the lid off the last few minutes of baking and come back to watch the finished product. All right, we are almost done. The oven just beeped. I'm going to turn it off, pull out the pot, take off the lid, and right away, the most important thing is to get it cooling immediately. So there we have it. This is our overnight Fiore bread, and it's totally worth it. So make it.